Hey Sopranos fans, welcome to another episode here on Bully Whispers, and we are here today to evaluate the sixth law of power in The Sopranos, court attention at all costs, which seems like a weird concept in any mafia-related context. Many of its core premises appear counterproductive, as courting attention at all costs can lead to arrest, which is why Tony let Jr. become boss, and making no distinction between good and bad attention can be fatal, as shown in our last episode through Vito. While Greene did eventually address those types of situations at the end, two key underlying components of the law remain clearly visible: the effect of a buzz surrounding your name, as well as the effect an air of mystery can have on the attention you receive. In this episode, we will evaluate Law 6 in The Sopranos, beginning with Tony, before moving on to Dr. Melfi, Lorraine, Calluzzo, and Annalisa Zucca, all of whom demonstrate different aspects of the law under different circumstances, and ending with the one aspect of the law that may help explain the success of the series as a whole in standing the test of time. With Tony, we do get to see a bit of the glimpse into how negative attention won't necessarily hurt your reputation, and may even help it. Early on in the series, we see a buzz stirring about Tony trying to kill his mother.
Not half so bad as certain rumors floating around this place about you. How Tony Soprano likes to fluff up his mother's pillow so she can get a nice long sleep.
Yet despite the fact that this would be considered despicable, even with that group and under those circumstances, it doesn't slow Tony's ascent one bit. Similarly, later on after Tony kills Ralphie, he begins getting some negative publicity.
I mean, don't get me wrong. I wouldn't piss on this Ralph if he was on fire. But to whack the guy over a horse, how fucked up is that?
It can happen to him, it can happen to any of us.
Now, while there were definitely some drawbacks and violations of other laws at play in that move, the aspects that are relative to Law 6 in this situation are that he kept his names on their tongues, and that he comes off as somewhat unpredictable. While coming off as the Mad Hatter type like Nicky Scarfo isn't good, Greene points out that people feel superior to those whose actions they can predict, so keeping them off balance by creating an air of unpredictability can be quite helpful in that regard. The historical example Greene gives for someone who is good at that sort of thing is Mao Zedong, who also provides a decent parallel to Tony in this context. Mao was a Chinese leader who cultivated an enigmatic image with no concern about contradicting himself.
I don't give too much of a shit what people do behind closed doors with the consent of adults. But don't forget, I'm a strict Catholic.
As a result, no one, not even his wife, ever felt they truly knew him, nor could they predict his actions, and therefore he seemed larger than life.
So I can't tell if you're old-fashioned, you're paranoid, or just a fucking asshole. You met him. My husband can be very magnetic. He's bigger than life.
This also meant that the public paid constant attention, ever anxious to witness his next move, and if that doesn't describe the audience's relationship with Tony, I don't know what does, but that's a dynamic we'll address towards the end of the episode. We also see the effect an air of mystery can have on Tony with both Dr. Melfi and Annalisa Zucca, but we'll get to Annalisa in a bit. Mystery is introduced into the relationship between Tony and Dr. Melfi from the opening scene before the two even meet, when Tony is baffled by boobies with the statue in the waiting room, and one can't help but wonder what he's thinking. Why is this here? Who is this? Oh, is this Dr. Melfi? Maybe she'd won a job at the Bing.
Mr. Soprano?
Oh, let's hope so. But moving forward, the mystery regarding Dr. Melfi is what she has covered up. Now let's be honest. While Melfi is absolutely a damn good-looking woman, when compared strictly physically to the women Tony would have had regular access to at the Bing, she wasn't that hot. A large part of her appeal was due to the mystery, as demonstrated by the fact that Tony tried to get Irina to dress similarly in an attempt to spice things up.
But I'm saying maybe you could wear a nice, business-like outfit. I think I could get into that.
Although, even if she had, I'm not sure how effective it would have been, since Irina was already such a well-traveled road for Tony at that point that there would be no mystery left. According to Greene, the power of mystery is that it invites layers of interpretation, excites our imagination, and seduces us into believing it conceals something marvelous. This is a concept that Dr. Melfi understood and tried to convey to Tony during one of his attempts to ask her out.
I want your mouth. I want your eyes.
You project all these qualities onto me. You don't know me.
Of course, Tony isn't hearing any of that, and proceeds to ask her out again later, where he is turned down more directly.
I'm not going to go out with you, okay? And it's not because you're unattractive, or I don't think I would have a good time. It's just something I'm not going to do.
But the talent show is tomorrow night!
In stark contrast to the modest, legitimate Dr. Melfi, who did not hook up with Tony, we have the loud gangstress Lorraine Calluzzo, who can probably attribute a great deal of her success to the fact that she did hook up with Tony.
Nice teamwork, Gobbler.
Now, normally being known for hooking up with a bunch of guys would just give her the reputation of a whore, especially when one of them was her second cousin, but she did exactly what Greene said to do and continually adapted. She loudly brought attention to the fact that she was also a Shylock, etc., which allowed her to gain the large reputation she would need to be taken seriously in the United States.
This is my nephew, Christopher.
Lady Shylock, you got some reputation.
Yeah, my mother said that might happen.
You see, unlike in Italy, in the US, women weren't taken seriously in the underworld, and having such a big name is what enabled her to operate. Of course, being talked about in the same conversations as Tony Soprano and Little Carmine certainly didn't seem to hurt, and probably lent her credibility. Either way, on the other side of the pond in Naples, due to cultural differences and familial relations, Annalisa Zucca doesn't have to be theatrical in her pursuit of legitimization through attention, but she does provide an excellent example of the power the mysterious can hold over people. According to Greene, one of the advantages to having an air of mystery about you is that it automatically puts the other person in the inferior position of trying to figure you out, and we see this very clearly through Annalisa's toenail clippings. Despite the fact that this was a business trip, when the time actually comes to talk business, that isn't what's on Tony's mind.
I wanted to talk about business.
Can I ask you a question?
We're not going to pay the price on the Mercedes.
Why do you save your toenail clippings?
This would mean that she would have spent more time mentally preparing for the meeting than Tony, who was wasting time thinking about her toenails. Yet, even when he finds out that she does it to prevent her enemies from putting curses on her, an explanation he would normally find hysterical, he still takes her seriously. And you can't say it's because she's hot, since he already shot that idea down. That was due to the mysteriousness of what Tony considered to be an ancient culture. To that point, if anyone, and I mean anyone in New Jersey had said the same thing, he would have thought they were batshit crazy. But he took Annalisa seriously because it's all about the mystery. And the power of mystery in The Sopranos isn't just limited to the characters' relationships with each other. It can also be seen in the relationship between the series and its audience, which may help to explain The Sopranos' staying power in the public eye. As previously mentioned, one of the powers of mystery is that it invites many layers of interpretation, and the writers were excellent at crafting that dynamic, with 3 o'clock being a good example. Since that episode aired, people have been discussing what 3 o'clock may mean, and the discussions still continue years after the show ended. But the best example is the ending. The ending angered many people at the time, but didn't hurt the show's legacy, confirming the point about not being concerned with controversy as long as it generates attention. It ended in a mysterious way with the cut to black, which invited many interpretations and ensured that it is still being discussed to this day, as well as ending in a way that was so unique that it will be a long time before a series can end in any kind of a similar fashion without being accused of copying The Sopranos, which would, of course, bring The Sopranos right back to the tip of people's tongues. Well, thanks for watching this episode here on Bully Whispers. As always, like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you at the next score.